supernatural abilities.
like telekinesis. That's a very high-tech ability.
Are there any aspects there that will make this whole online revolution more intense?
Now, as Uranus moves into Gemini, it's going to be like war online, which we are already seeing. AI. I don't want to say it's like World War, like how we've experienced it, but it can be an information war. China literally saying to consumers, like, come get your Louis Vuitton here because that's where Louis Vuitton's getting from, but you're getting scammed.
What have you seen specifically in that year for 2028?
With times like that, like the American Civil War, 2020-ish, around then, we all know how things like that. We can kind of think along those lines as well, too. A lot of the American people will be tired of the government constantly stripping away their rights, even the people that voted for him. And to see like cashless system as well, I think less of a reliance on physical currency.
Are we all doomed, or is there hope?
Well, another thing as well is the amount of water and power that it takes to generate these systems. They're having to switch over to nuclear power now. I think once we get through the next 4 years, crypto could gain more legitimacy. There's an underbelly to all of this because as well, but Pluto now in Aquarius, the wealth is going to be in technological advances and data and like what you own, what media property you own, the rise of a different type of influencer, or also the changing of the guard when it comes to what already. I mean, they have our face from this. They're listening to us constantly on it. By the end of the Pluto and Aquarius transit, 2044 around, you're going to be walking down the street and to get in some place, they scan you. But there was an advancement of warfare around that time. So I think we're also going to see that now, but it's on a different level.
Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Transformation to Expansion. I'm your host, LaJoie Bradley, and today we have a very special guest. Her name is Adama Sise, astrologer and author, a professional tarot reader, entrepreneur, and marketing expert. She founded LilithAstrology.com in 2019 and published Black Moon Lilith Rising and the Black Moon Lilith Cosmic Alchemy Oracle deck. Do you have the deck too? Yes. Okay, I saw some of those cards on your YouTube channel. I was like, I need to get me one. I need to get me a deck. They look so good. Studied metaphysical science of astrology through the National Council of Geocosmic Research and has over a decade of experience professionally playing in the mystical, spiritual, beauty, and fashion corporate worlds. Please welcome Adama to the show. Thank you, Adama, for being here today. How are you feeling?
Thank you for having me. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling fabulous, you know?
Good. So, yeah, we talked a little bit before the show. You specialize in the Black Moon Lilith. And I think before the show, I was talking to you about how, I was introduced to this this astrologer, Monique Lorraine. She's been on the show before. She specializes in diamond astrology, but she actually pinpoints this Black Moon Lilith. She was the first astrologer that I've ever met who actually even, brought that out in the chart reading. What's your fascination with the Black Moon Lilith, and why is it so important to really focus on this when we do astrology readings and looking in your charts?
So I absolutely, of course, am obsessed with the Black Moon Lilith in astrology because she is one of the few dark feminine archetypes in the natal chart. And I would say like my astrology studies, they've been lifelong, but they took a turn towards Lilith in 2019. And this is because I started taking private lessons with my teacher and attending group courses to really like become the professional that I am today. And Lilith was brought up in those classes, and my teachers never really knew what it was. Like they would kind of skim over it. It'd be really quick. And then I would go home and start to dissect it within my own chart. And I was just like, we're not doing justice to such an important part of the chart, especially to me being a Black woman in America. Like talking about the dark feminine is something extremely personal to me, like based on how I grew up, my lens, what ethnic background I am and everything, and the women that I observed in my own life. Lilith to me was a very empowering, dark feminine goddess. And a lot of what I read at that time and saw online was painting her out to be like a blood-sucking demon, Satan's wife, as we kind of chatted about before this. She was seen as this femme fatale, and she was always pictured white. And it's kind of like when we look at biblical characters, because of colonialism, like even Jesus is painted white with blue eyes and blonde hair. And it just was very confusing to me because I'm like, the mythology of Lilith, the way that I see her show up in myself and in my chart, it's telling a story that is not quite what is out there right now. And I also didn't like that a majority of, actually all of them, someone let me know if you come across a Black author that wrote content on Lilith prior to this, like published. And that was another issue I had, was a lot of it was written by white men. So the story of the dark feminine was then also through the lens of the white patriarchy from what I was reading. And so I was like, this is now going to be my work. Like, I've had enough. You all are not doing justice to such a prolific placement, but also misunderstood. And I want to release analysis of Black Moon Lilith through my own lens as a Black woman and offer something different. And I also wanted to paint her Black as well, so physically. So that was kind of like how this became my work. And usually every professional astrologer like has something that they really focus on. I integrate the whole entire chart into my work, so it's not just Lilith. But I really felt that this was a place of empowerment. It's not what she was known as before. A lot of white astrologers would say she's like a place of undoing. She is a place of hypersexuality, hypersexuality and feminine, and more about the feminine rage than actual empowerment and ways that you can channel the dark energy into your power source and your talent and who you are in this lifetime, instead of having it be your undoing. And I really felt that there were some parallels, well, a lot of parallels to the experience of Black women in America, and just that intersection of having to navigate the world with racism and misogyny and patriarchy kind of like oppressing you, which is in essence the story of Lilith. So to me, the story of Lilith and the mythology of Lilith is just a description of the wound of patriarchy that is incredibly ancient and is deeply embedded in each and every one of us. And in our natal chart, this is how we can start to unpack it. So I took a little different approach than what was taken in the past with Lilith. And I created more of a self-help / astrology book as well, because I also have exercises, there's a workbook, and there's a way for people to actually integrate it. So I'm not just saying, oh, she's a place of your undoing and it's a challenge and it's difficult, it's a dark shadow. I actually teach you how to navigate your way through it and what to look for, what subtle behaviors that can come out when your Lilith is activated, and how you can channel it into your superpower.
That's so interesting, because I feel like, especially since October, November, I think we had a Scorpio full. I forget what the exact astrology report was, but people's shadows were coming out. People were faced with the same scenarios over and over and over again until they got it. And I feel like I have some friends who are still experiencing the same things happening every month, because they haven't changed certain things, or because they haven't really trusted, right? So I think now for most of us, though, we're pretty much done with that. But a lot of shadows came up this past fall.
I would say that we were finishing up Pluto in Capricorn. So we were finishing up that final degree, and we entered into Pluto in Aquarius for good. I want to say January. No, it was like towards the end of last year and then into January, because Pluto retrogrades. So Pluto has been going back and forth since 2023 between Capricorn and Aquarius. So when you're on the final degree of such a big transit like that, it can feel very karmic. Like, if take a look at where you had Capricorn in your chart, and that'll kind of show you like what you were finishing up and clearing up this fall. And Pluto and Aquarius now, it's like more game time in the next house that Pluto is activating. Or if you have Aquarius placements, if you're a millennial and you have Pluto and Scorpio, you're experiencing your Pluto square now. So that's, talk about shadows, like take a look at where you have Scorpio in your chart. Now Pluto is coming to trigger that. So now we finish up Cap, and Gen X was more on the chopping block with the chopping block was more on in the spotlight during Pluto in Capricorn because they were going through their Pluto square. So now Pluto and Libra placements are kind of feeling like, okay, now I'm at the end of this karmic cycle. And that was since 2008 that we were experiencing Pluto and Capricorn. So we're finishing up all of that. And now it's like the deconstruction for more of an egalitarian society, which is what we're seeing right now. And it may not look fun. It's not great. And it's not ideal, but I think the amount of chaos that is being caused is this Pluto and Aquarius that's now breaking everything down so that it can be rebuilt as something more egalitarian versus status driven, which is very Capricorn.
There's so much disillusionment with that too, you know, like I think people really thought that we had a egalitarian system before, and when you really look at the history of that system, nah, like from the jump it was meant to really control and to I mean, it was a system built to control who's in power, who's not in power at the end of the day. Let's long story short. When I say from the jump, like I mean like from the Roman times when they really, you know, created democracy. There ain't no difference, y'all. There ain't no difference. People think like, you know, our teachers always tell us like, no, it was so much better back then. No, it wasn't. No, it was the same thing. So it's really beautiful. You know, it's beautiful. It's ugly and it's beautiful what's happening, right? Because there is a lot of chaos in the world. There's a lot of, you know, things that are happening that are going to continue to happen randomly too. That's the other thing people don't understand about Pluto and Aquarius. I think Uranus is also going into Aquarius, or is going to be like a prominent like placement in these upcoming 19 years. And Uranus, Uranus is so random. You know, it's like it could be a good surprise, it could be a bad surprise, right? Can you kind of speak to that about how it'll like really affect the next couple of years of like Pluto and Aquarius?
Well, so right now we're on the tail end of Uranus in Taurus. So we've got about 5 more degrees left of Uranus in Taurus, and Uranus is moving into actually Gemini this summer. So July 7th, Uranus moves into Gemini for 7 years. So Uranus transits are about 7 years. And this is actually forming a trine to Pluto in Aquarius, which is a synergistic, soft connection in astrology. It's harmonious. So I think that is one big difference between what we've been experiencing, some of this like clashing. I think the information age is going to speed up a lot more. So it's going to be less about the destruction of, well, that's still going to keep going, but less about the destruction of like the physical world. That's what Taurus rules over. And like plants, animals, farming, sustainability, all of that has been going through big shakeups, and especially technologically. But now, as you know, Uranus was into Gemini, it's going to be like war online, which we are already seeing. AI. This is like, this is like, I don't want to say it's like World War, like how we've experienced it, but it can be an information war. Like we've already had a lot going on with like people taking your identity and like deep fakes and like fraud online, like a whole bunch of these things. So that could ramp up, but there can be some ways to counteract it, like through legislation and some control, like kind of everyone wrangling in and the government wrangling this all in. But there's going to be some time that it kind of is like a free for all. But Now you can also see there's a trade war going on right now. And that's also a big part of, so Neptune and Saturn are moving. Neptune just moved into Aries. We're going to have some retrogrades back into Neptune and Pisces, but we've also been on the last degree of Neptune and Pisces. So that's also contributing to the loss a lot of people have experienced. And we've been in that final degree for like a year or so. But now that's moving into fire. So this is what we call the great transmutation, actually, in astrology, is when these heavy hitters move to fire and air, because we've been experiencing earth and water. So fire and air, this is more the masculine, and this is more action, external manifestation of all these things. And we can think of like communication, that's air, that's logic, that's very like, that's this just driven physical energy. So I think that, yeah, like it's definitely like giving information age, conflict around that, data, wars involving that, wars being fought, like drones as well, like not even needing to be there, which we already are seeing. And the last time actually with Neptune in Aries that we experienced this was the American Civil War. And during that time, obviously, some history, like there was, it wasn't really a fight about the enslaved people. They were kind of like a part of that whole institution of the South. But there was an advancement of warfare around that time. So I think we're also going to see that now, but it's on a different level. We're not running around with muskets, and physically it's drone strikes, information war, trade wars, conflict over finances. So, and yeah, people are going to be suffering, I think, as well during this transit.
So, have you ever felt like you're meant for more? You're here for a reason. Something inside of you knows that there's more. There's more purpose, there's more connection, there's more fulfillment, there's more love to be enjoyed in this life. What if all of that was here right now? Your life easier to navigate, your dreams easier to manifest. You can live in a life of ease, even in these uncertain times with Pluto being in Aquarius. Your community of expansion is right here at your fingertips. From the moment you enter, you feel the sense of release and comfort. No more wondering if all those downloads you got as a kid were just random thoughts. No more wondering that time you had telepathy, thinking that it was just a fluke. Be with the people you know are here for you. Join our ever-expanding community on Patreon for free. And for those of you who ask, yes, the Wellness Library is included. I love y'all so much. Let's get back to the show. Peace.
Another thing I've been talking about as well with this great transmutation moving into air and fire is fire. Physical fire becoming like more and more of a devastating thing. And we've seen that already start to, even here in Miami, we've had fires like in the Everglades. It's like already. And we had it starting in March. It's very early for that to be happening. So we're not taking care of the environment. Men are driving it into the ground. And as a result, we're going to see more and more of devastation through fire.
It's funny because there's like the physical war, which is more about a war between humans and nature. And then there's this quote unquote digital war, which is kind of hilarious because it's digital. Like technically it's not really real, like, isn't that insane? Like it really isn't, like it's not anything tangible, like, but it's going to be something that's going to be fought over, like, especially with data. Oh my God, data is going to be like, man, have you seen Westworld, the TV show?
Is it like post-apocalyptic?
Yeah, basically, I mean, I'm definitely one of those people who's like, they communicate to us through movies and TV shows. And when it first came out, they made it seem like, oh, it's just this show about this place that people go to with robots. But then in the last season, Yeah, they made it too close to home, basically. They made it way too close to home. Like it was really crazy. Like at the end, data wars, you saw the government or the richest people use data to control people and to navigate their life. And they're doing that now. I don't think they're doing it to the same extreme because they don't have that much data, but I'm sure give it like 5 years, it's gonna be an issue.
Oh yeah. Give it by the end of the Pluto and Aquarius transit, 2044 around, you're gonna be walking down the street and to get in some place, they scan you. And that like you're not even gonna need your phone. From from my opinion, my analysis, like you're not even gonna need your phone by the end of this transit.
Oh my
Like,
god. I
yeah.
don't even want to think about that. It's crazy.
Already. I mean, they have our face from this. They're listening to us constantly on it. They have so much, and then like Meta, these monopolies, these tech oligarchs. This is also the rise of the techocracy. I hope I'm saying that right. Technocrat, but they own so much data. So the amount of data that you own is also currency as well. So that Pluto also controls money, actually, on the collective level. Venus is everyday transits, personal planet, sprinkle some glitter, sprinkle some money, making things easier. Pluto is like generational wealth. And Pluto is actually the lord of the underworld in mythology here. And he rules over all of the hidden wealth. So the minerals, the gold, the ore, diamonds, all of that that's in the ground that you wouldn't normally like. Pluto was the richest one out of all of them. He was just very quiet with it. Pluto rules Scorpio as well, guys. So, but that's why Scorpio rules other people's money as well. But Pluto now in Aquarius, the wealth is going to be in technological advances and data and like what you own, what media property you own as an individual. So I think also influencer, which I've been saying this for a long time, the rise of a different type of influencer, or also the changing of the guard when it comes to what people are consuming online and who they're looking up to. And you can see that different types of influencers are definitely becoming more popular these days as well. Those who are like offering something different to the collective.
Like I think even like right now, like with influencers, everything is still super mainstream. And with Pluto being in Aquarius too, I think people are gonna get more interested in like the uniqueness of individuals, and they're gonna get more. They're gonna not just want more from influencers, but they're also gonna be like, oh, like I don't know, maybe this influencer doesn't like chocolate, and that's what made them like random stuff like that, right? It's not gonna be because I feel like even now we're still in this like yes, we have influencers, but there's still all kind of I don't want to say the big ones I would say are kind of influencing in the same way. But then through Pluto and Aquarius, I feel like it's going to be more about like uniqueness and be like, oh, this person is doing something completely different, and everybody's going to gravitate towards that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so it's a cool, exciting time. But yeah, the technology though, it's gonna like it's exponentially like it's even now we're kind of experiencing that, right? We're seeing everything ramp up. Um, people quote unquote discovered AI 2 years ago, or it was I guess more for the masses, right? About 2 years ago. And even now, people aren't super integrating it. But I remember talking to one of my friends in tech, and they're like, just give it 2 years and literally everybody's gonna do AI. And I was like, in 2 years? Like, and he's like, yeah, in 2 years. And I just like I couldn't believe how fast. So and it's just gonna get faster. That's like the crazy part. It's like.
Well, another thing as well is there's an underbelly to all of this because the amount of water and power that it takes to generate these systems, they're having to switch over to nuclear power now.
Wow.
Because like the data centers, like if there's no water, like we're killing all the water in the planet, like where are we gonna run all of this? Okay, like let's switch to nuclear. So then you get into this, you get into this, the underbelly of Pluto, which can also be destruction as well. And you also think about like the slave labor that is involved in mining all of these technological, these gadgets, all of that. That's the underbelly of it all as well. So we don't see it as on the consumer side, but it also is going to take a toll on the environment to the point where they're going to have to put regulations. Otherwise, it's like, if there's no planet and we've got AI, like we've all seen Terminator, right? Like, you can't just let it go off the rails. Like, or like Atlantis, where they went off the rails and they were doing too much. So I mean, I think that that's what the world is really going to have to focus on is, are we doing too much now? And making sure, like, is what we're doing sustainable? So that's going to be a big push and pull. But yeah, like the underbelly of Pluto, we always have to remember as well. And then there's also like scientific technology as well, like for health, human health. That's going to go through a big transformation during this 20-year period. And yeah, I mean, I think that humanitarianism is ruled by Aquarius. And so I think that people who are embodying that are going to be more championed. And we are kind of seeing what it looks like when they don't. Like someone, for instance, like Elon Musk is definitely not a humanitarian. I think he's more self-serving, and we can see him crashing right now because it's not about, oh, I'm building all of this infrastructure for humanity. It's like, we all know that it's not the reason why he's doing what he's doing. So if you go into this as well without good intentions, Pluto is also going to reveal, and there's going to be a crash out as well too. Because it's like when we think back to the billionaires or the equivalent of these oligarchs back in the Industrial Revolution, this is really when capitalism started getting ramped up. They at least were building libraries and donating money, and like this is why we have like the subway system in New York City because of some billionaire back then, like the oil whatever giants. Like, at least, I'm not saying they're great, but at least they were helping to build infrastructure. So yeah, I think there's going to be a big awakening for these technocrats as well. I don't think it's going to be like a straight shoot to the moon, like, or Mars as he wants to go, like, because he doesn't have the purest intentions for the collective at heart. So we're going to see like the rise and fall of some of these guys, in my opinion.
There's like so many things we can say about, what's going to happen the next 20 years. I mean, and it's funny because I've talked to astrologers about this. I've even talked to people in tech about this. Like, a lot of people say that the AI thing isn't going to last. And my opinion is like, it'll just be integrated. That's it. I think it's just gonna be integrated. Like for example, like what, 20, 30 years ago, not everybody had an email address. Now everybody has an email address. I think it's just gonna be one of those things where it's just gonna be more really integrated. But I think even the development of energy will definitely be evolving. So I don't know when that'll be.
Oh, it's right now. We get into fire as well, because nuclear at the end of the day, that's like air and fire to me. Like, I mean, we were powering it by water, but it's not going to be enough in the scale that they want to grow these businesses, and they are outsourcing and looking at building nuclear plants that are going to power these systems.
That's crazy. Just for the system too, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, and then so I was just talking to a friend of mine. She's in Guatemala, and she was telling me how Starlink is everywhere in South America now, and I didn't even realize like it was so prominent. But yeah, because they're offering quote unquote cheap, internet. But I'm like, the exchanges that you're actually giving them billions of dollars in data. Like, people don't understand. Like, it's like nothing is cheap or free. It's crazy. Like, I don't know, I always say like they're such geniuses for thinking of this, because it really is really smart, right? Like, even the chat GPT that you might pay for, you're paying them to take your data. Like, all of these apps that are free, we're literally paying them. And it's like, I don't know, I wish there was more awareness around it, because at least I think people would they'll be a little bit smarter about how to navigate these spaces, these digital spaces. People are just literally like, you're giving them the money.
And you have to think about that as like independent creators as well. When you're on platforms like TikTok, YouTube, etc., always be thinking about getting people onto your email list, getting their contact information, so that in case these networks grow and evolve and change, you always have your own home on the internet. Because as we see, like every 5 minutes on TikTok, it's like, oh, just kidding, we're not closing it. Oh, we're closing it down now. And there's people that make money on TikTok and make a living on it. But if you just based your platform on them, like they own your platform, you're working essentially for them, and you're giving all that your customers' data over to them as well.
It's something like to think about and be more aware of. That was one thing. Like I was like on Instagram, and I'm sort of still on it, but sort of not. But I worked for years to like post content to try to go viral. Finally went viral. Didn't get the results I wanted. And then I just realized like I just put in all of this time and effort into this app for nothing. For nothing. And it's so I just like I left. Like I was just like, I'm just gonna stop real quick. I'm on TikTok now, but it's not as toxic a relationship. That's how I'm gonna put it.
IG and Facebook. I mean, Facebook, yeah. I don't want to say it's dead, but it's funny how it evolved from like a college network to now it's like known as like an older demographic that's on there. But I think that the only reason why Meta, I think, is even relevant right now is because they acquired WhatsApp and Instagram. So that's the only reason why. And I think that's why they're trying so hard to take TikTok down or buy it or have it absorb into them. But then it's like, you can't be a monopoly because we have all those monopoly laws. He's also kind of breaking that as well too. But it's a big data mining, data farming. Like when you really go into the privacy settings and all that, I've been like shook. Like there's like, it's like 10 years or so, like a long time of them just collecting data. And they can sell your data to anyone, market anything to you. Yeah. So that's going to be, and I also see like cashless system as well. I think less of a reliance on physical currency. I'm not crypto, but like I think certain coins are going to mature and be more legitimate. Of course, Bitcoin is one of them, but I don't think it's going to be like thousands of coins are worth tons of money. But I think once we get through the next 4 years, crypto could gain more legitimacy as we move into Pluto and Aquarius.
Well, yeah, because this is a topic that I just became privy to probably the past year. Not talking to astrologers, but just talking to monks about this in a really crazy way too. But let's talk about the year 2028, because I think even astrologers have talked about this too. Everybody says everything's going to go down in 2028. It's going to be a crazy year. What have you seen specifically in that year for 2028? What have you seen in the astrology?
So, I mean, we'll be deep into Pluto and Aquarius. Neptune and Aries is going to be going. Uranus and Gemini will be going. And in terms of like the eclipse cycles, because that's another big collective planetary aspect to look at, those will be in Capricorn, the Capricorn North Node and Cancer South Node. So in terms of the United States, like, we use the Sibley chart kind of as a guide for what's going to go on with the United States. It puts the sun at Cancer, 4th of July. The South Node, when transiting, forming conjunction with the sun in a country's chart, there can be some big changes in the path of the country, what the country looks like, what homestead looks like. Cancer rules the home. And there could be some changes. South Node, North Node in Capricorn, that's ruled by Saturn. So harsh lessons, restriction. So, I mean, we've already seen some restriction right now this year with what's going on. So I think it could intensify. And what's really interesting actually? So the last time the nodes were in Cancer and Capricorn, it was flipped. And the North Node was in Cancer in, it was like 2020, like 2020-ish, around then. We all know what happened back then. And we had the Pluto-Saturn conjunction that was like January 12th, 2020, near the South Node, which was in Capricorn. So just thinking about what went on, that timeline, complete change in our country, we can kind of think along those lines as well too. But yeah, the outer planets are going to be in all air and fire. So a lot of conflict, action. There may be some challenges with data. Saturn will be in Taurus. So we'll be out of Saturn in Aries. And Saturn in Taurus, we've had Uranus there, and that has been disruptions in our food, our sustainability. So Saturn and Taurus can bring some challenges there as well too. Yeah. Doesn't sound too hot, does it?
Sounds like a little depression.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But at the same time, like, I don't want to say like, oh, they survived through it back then, but these things happen for a reason. And what was born actually out of the Depression was FDR and the Brand New Deal and all of these services and Social Security and certain accommodations for the collective were made after because of World War II, after the Depression. So out of necessity sometimes can come services to actually help people that are suffering. So I think that after all of what is going on, which I also think with Trump, he's going to be going through his Uranus return. He's a Uranus in Gemini and a Gemini sun. So that is a big life cycle event for someone, and it can create a lot of chaos. So I see a lot of chaos for him, but I think a lot of the American people will be tired of the government like constantly stripping away their rights, even the people that voted for him. And so I think we are going to swing more in a humanitarian direction.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like he's chaotic now. Yeah, with him, it's just like it. It's interesting because I mean he's really showing us like the system that we truly live in. He's really showing us the truth of what it is. I think that's like one thing that I can say about it is that he's really showing you, look, this is the system. This is it. This is how like a lot of these rich people in power. This is how we finesse it. This is exactly it. But like, it's like sometimes I'm like, come on, to think that that's gonna get even worse.
And it's also the Uranus return of the United States as well, if I use the same chart. And according to that chart, the US is a Sag rising, and that's in opposition to the US's ascendant. So the descendant is like partnerships, contracts. So it's like when you have a Uranus transit there, it can lead to like breakups, shakeups with other people. So for the US, it would be like other countries, or would be like the arguments, conflicts, wars. Uranus is a big war trigger. It's not Mars. Mars can trigger on the day or on the month of when something's supposed to happen, but Uranus is like a big trigger. When you see Uranus conjunct the ascendant, descendant of a country, sun, moon, rising, like.
So are we all doomed or is there hope?
There's hope. Like I said, like, I mean, with times like that, like the American Civil War, World War II, World War I, these cycles happen and people survived. Some people, I don't want to say they thrived, but there were people that were born out of the ashes. So this is now going back to like the symbology of Pluto as a planet and the link to the phoenix. You can be born from some of these difficult events and come out that much better and that much stronger. This is what death and rebirth is all about. So on the other end of a death is a rebirth. So that's what Pluto can teach us. So I think that he's even if it's intentional or unintentional, I truly don't know. but he is showing us the truth of these systems. For example, this weekend, which I worked in fashion, I know the tea with China and all that. Like, it's not a shock to me, but China literally saying to consumers, like, come get your Louis Vuitton here because this is where Louis Vuitton's getting them from, but you're getting scammed because you're paying full price. Meanwhile, they're paying us next to nothing for it. This is what your government does to you. They jack up the prices. They, especially at being a white patriarchal society, they outsource labor. They have had an aversion to labor since enslaved people built the country, and basically have been scamming their public and not taking care of them. So good for you, Trump. Like, you just unearthed all of this, and you may have decimated a whole luxury goods industry. And that is something that a lot of these elites and wealthy people prop themselves up on and rely on as class markers and indicators of their wealth. So if Hermes is no longer worth it, he just deconstructed a whole system of oppression surrounding objects. Like, we can even think back to the last time Pluto was in Aquarius. We had the French Revolution, and back then the aristocracy was being ridiculed for the amount of money they were spending, the houses that they had, what they were purchasing with people's money. So the people fought back. So I think now we're kind of having that same thing, but it's online now. It's done through the internet, because literally, like, they're like, just come order from our warehouse. Even with terrace is cheaper.
I don't know. Like, is it gonna be as effective if it's online? You know, like, it's different. When you're in person, you feel the energy. You get scared. If somebody, like, for those of us who have like channels and a following online, if somebody texts me like, oh, like, you're such an idiot for saying this. Oh my God, I don't care. Like, it's just like, like, it's a comment. Like, I don't know you like that. You're not coming up to my house. That's one thing. If you come up to somebody's house, that's a different energy. That's more like, oh, okay, so something's up here. You think it's gonna be as effective online?
So sorry, what was like controlling that? Like, if people like stalk or something like that?
The whole revolution aspects. That's like one thing I've just been thinking about, because it's like, not stalking. No, that's just an example. But my point was, like, back then it was more like it was upfront. People, slaves were coming up to, their oppressors' houses, not DMing them on Facebook. Like, it's not, it's not the same. Like, but do you think, I don't know, like, looking at the chart for Pluto and Aquarius, like, are there any aspects there that will make, this whole online revolution more intense or more important? Like,
I mean, I think the synergy between Neptune in Aries and Pluto in Aquarius, I think that's definitely going to add fuel to the fire. Like, air and fire just creates more fire.
okay.
And what's interesting about Neptune, so Neptune, I call Neptune like the great dissolver. So the planets that Neptune makes aspects with and touches, it tends to dissolve the other planets. So to me, it's like that fire, that anger. Aries also rules war, conflict, the masculine. That can also, like, engulf everyone a bit. What's interesting, well, not interesting, scary actually, is he's the governor of Pennsylvania. Just had, like, someone like firebomb, like, tried to bomb his house. Like, I think it was this weekend. Mm-hmm. Don't really quote me on it. I'm going off of a headline. I didn't dive into it, but moments like that, or let's take a look at the United Healthcare murder with alleged Luigi Mangione. I mean, people are, or even the times Trump was almost pew-pewed. So people are taking it offline. Mm-hmm. And it can be a lot of men doing that as well. This is why we also have mass pew-pewings, especially down in red states where there's zero regulation. And majority of the time it's the masculine, it's men who are doing it. And so Aries fire, this is like pure masculine anger being channeled.
Mm.
So I think also this is going to be a time of like awakening, but we're going to have to see the shadow of the masculine as well first. This is why there's all this talk of like, oh, the male loneliness epidemic and what men are going through, and men are falling behind and this and that. Like, this is something that they have to deal with internally on a collective level, but that's going to increase for sure. But this is masculine energy, air and fire, that we're going into. So part of that is aggression, conflict, whether it's online or if they take it offline.
Okay, so we talked about the negative. Let's get into some positive aspects.
Yeah. I love
So,
that.
one thing, yeah. One thing that I do know about Pluto and Aquarius is that there's not just going to be a technical evolution, there's going to be also a spiritual evolution. What can you tell us based off of the chart? How are people going to evolve spiritually?
So I wrote about this as well in Black and Lilith Rising, but I believe with Pluto and Aquarius, since Aquarius is more egalitarian and is more about the collective and is also about sovereignty, that this is going to be more of a rise of the divine feminine and leaders more coming into prominence in spirituality, because believe it or not, it is actually a very patriarchal and male dominated space. And that's up until, I would say, the 20th century. And then the 20th century, we started seeing leaders like Evangeline Adams, Pamela Coleman Smith, who literally the deck we all use, the format we all use even to this day. But even back then, Pamela Coleman Smith, she passed penniless and was only given like, I don't know, like $200, $300 back then by Arthur Waite, who commissioned the deck. Yeah. So it's just, I think the patriarchy within the spiritual space is definitely going to be deconstructed. I also think that Neptune in Pisces, that switch over into Neptune in Aries, is also going to bring some big changes and some truths. So Neptune in Pisces was about 16 years. It's about a 14 to 16-year transit. And during that time, like, Neptune rules over Pisces. There's just a lot of leaders that were kind of like false light, or they were painting themselves one way. And now the mask with Neptune and Aries, you're really going to see the truth. And there are some prominent leaders, whether it's posthumously or they're still alive, that this has been ramping up. Like, even if the collective, they'll call it out and then nothing ever comes of it, I think that the call outs are going to now start, there's going to start to be more accountability. I won't say specific people. I'm not going to get that far. But if you all look in the ethers, on the news and media, you've seen specific leaders being called out and the truth revealed of their practices, or if they're taking advantage of people, or if their credentials aren't really what they say they are. So I also see more transparency in spirituality. And so people who are truly trying to build community, not like hoist themselves up like a cult leader, essentially. I mean, MAGA we can see as a cult as well, came to prominence during Neptune and Pisces. So now when we're fire energy, it's really going to be like truth. And Aries is also the leader. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. Neptune is in the first sign, so it's like the rebirth of who a spiritual leader is supposed to be. So I'm really excited for it, actually.
Yeah, that sounds dope. It sounds like we're gonna meet some really cool leaders.
Yeah, and
That's great.
See them kind of coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, the whole thing with the age of Aquarius, like, so I'm part of the camp that believes that around 2100, 2060, we're going to see more of the shift, but it's based on the shifting of the vernal equinox. It's about a 24,000 year cycle, and it's really based on observation. So we don't entirely know yet when the switch is. But there we have like theories. And I know like a lot of people have been saying like it's now, but Pluto in Aquarius is right now. Age of Aquarius is a different thing. But it is going to give, it's going to be kind of like an entrance into Age of Aquarius, in my opinion. But we're not quite there yet.
Do you mean like the golden age? Is that what you're talking about? Or
I can call it a golden age, but the Age of Aquarius. So, like when we think about like what it is technically in astrology, it's when the vernal equinox. This is the zero Aries point in tropical, and it shifts. So right now, it's in Aquarius. It's in Pisces. So we have been in the age of Pisces, and a lot of astrologers have analyzed this time as like a time of delusion surrounding religion. Yeah, we can take a look at the world and we can totally see that. And so Aquarian age is supposed to be a age of transcending that and an age of truth. So most professional astrologers believe that we are on the tipping point to the vernal equinox switching to Aries, but we're not quite there yet.
okay.
So that's like the technical part of it. But Pluto in Aquarius is going to bring it's going to come set the foundation for that.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, I talked to, some of my friends who are more spiritual. They're kind of done. It's so funny because everybody has their own theories about why souls have incarnated into this time. But I have a lot of friends saying, forget the golden age. Like, this is my last time. I'm done. Like, nobody wants to come back.
Yeah, I'm ready. That's why we're doing the work now,
Yeah. So yeah, that foundation is going to be shifted. Yeah, it's going to be shifted. And that's the thing. You can't build something incredible off of a poor foundation. You do have to, it's like if if you've ever grown a garden and, one of your vegetables catches a disease, you're not going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to grow the same vegetables on this plot of land with the same disease. No, you're not going to do that, right? You have to rebuild. You might even have to put new dirt in there. You might have to take out the old dirt. So, you really do have to shake up and change the foundation in order to build a new one. Have you heard anything about, so one of my other previous guests, we talk about supernatural abilities and like things like that. Is there any sign of that within the astrology? Does the astrology show signs of this?
I would say Pluto in Aquarius. Supernatural abilities like telekinesis. That's a very high-tech ability. I think that more and more people's abilities like this are going to come online. I think more intuition. I think what's crazy is it's like they're using crystal energy to run computers, like to do Wi-Fi, like wireless. Like there's no wires. It's sending through the air. It's going somewhere. Like I have crystals all the time, all around me. Like even we can hear about the legends with the Atlantis. Crystal power was kind of like one of the legendary things that they had developed, which is, essentially what we're working with here is crystal power. This is why, like the cobalt mines, and even Africa, this is why they've pilfered. My family's from Sierra Leone, and this is the big diamond capital. And basically, it was ransacked and pilfered of minerals. Remember, Pluto rules over that stuff, ores, all that, people. And actually, Pluto was in Taurus back during the American Civil War. And we can think about Taurus. Taurus rules over things like agriculture, finances, our property, ownership. Pluto's abuses of power. So back then, they were abusing people to cultivate cotton, natural resources, materials, plowing fields, all kinds of things, and building this country. So now with Pluto and Aquarius, it's the abuses of technology, essentially. These minds, what's absolutely disgusting to me is these minds are using technology from, I don't know, like back in 1800s they used for mining. And these children are working in conditions that are abhorrent. And these tech billionaires are sitting their asses on private jets and using the latest technologies that were picked by children.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there's always a darkness to it. So it's like we're going to have this advance. In the United States, we had this advance, but the underbelly of it was enslaved people literally building it. And now there's the descendants. So as well, like my mother is African American. So on that side, I'm the descendant of enslaved people here. We're also dealing with the ramifications of that in our present life. And that also is a big part of Pluto as well. Like you can take a look at where you have Pluto in your chart, but a lot of African Americans, from what I've looked at, thousands of charts, it's a lot of fourth house Plutos, eighth house Pluto, 12th house Pluto, very karmic houses, because Pluto is abuses of power. Black Moon Lilith is also linked to the dark feminine and abuses of power in that sphere. So I can also say like Pluto, I don't want to say Pluto's the devil because he's not.
Mm-hmm.
He's not Satan. Technically Saturn is Satan, but Pluto and Black Moon Lilith kind of have a little bit of a marriage going on with their energies. It's like similar, and they're both dark feminine, even though Pluto is more of the male deity.
Yeah, I want to touch on that too, because you said earlier, yeah, so I'm a millennial, so my Pluto is in Scorpio actually, and so I think all of us, something dark happened in our childhood, and from different levels for everybody, but something dark happened, and something that, if we have siblings, younger siblings, we might not be able to relate to them on that level, but let's tap into that real quick. So, Pluto and Scorpio, you said that this is kind of, the best place for Pluto. What does that really mean for people who have that placement? Like, what is some of the work that they might need to do if they have that placement?
So, yeah, so Pluto is at home in Scorpio. And this is rare because Pluto takes 248 years. Don't quote me on that, guys. It might be a couple years off. But 248 years, it's about 16 to 20 years in a sign. So it's generational in that people in that same grouping have similar experiences. So, can I say trigger warning? I'll use some different words, but from what I've seen with millennials, like there can be sexual abuse, there can be rape, there can be family trauma, there can be the loss of, like, there could be death. That's literally some of the things that Pluto rules in Scorpio. When we look at collectively what was going on when we were all born, so this is between 83 and 95 around, there was the HIV AIDS crisis, and that was a new crisis, disease, virus that the world had never seen before, and it was spread through the sexual organs, and Scorpio quite literally rules that. So that is the lens that we were entered into. So Pluto, on a micro level, it can be some of those abuses that I mentioned. And then on a macro level, that was what was going on in our world when we were born. So collectively, yeah, schmexual trauma is a big collective experience, whether you experienced it yourself or you saw it on the world stage. And it completely shifted sexuality on a collective level, because before that there was also like things like birth control was more widespread during that time, but then it's like the sexual revolution back in the 70s came to a halt because they didn't have that. Of course there were diseases, but it wasn't to the level of the HIV AIDS epidemic. And of course it hit the gay community the worst, and that was a big collective event that changed sexuality as we know it. And then we can even think to like 9/11. That was a big collective experience, but that was more under Pluto in Sagittarius. So that was more that generation. But millennials, we were there for it. And then the crash in 2008. I graduated during that time. Had to make lemonade out of lemons, skimping, saving, all kinds of stuff, working for free, whatnot. So we constantly have been evolving, going through death and rebirth. And if you're a Scorpio and you have this placement, like your life, my life always changes every 2 years. Like there's always,
oh my God.
Yeah. Like I'm never the same. I can look at like if I'm not moving somewhere, if I'm not, my mind's in the fourth house, lots of fun. If I'm not moving somewhere, if I'm not shifting my life path or the people in it. Yeah. But the thing is that with Pluto and Scorpio, you always level up.
Yeah, exactly.
You always evolve from those situations. And sometimes it also takes facing your shadow and why you got yourself in that situation to put an end to it and evolve and change. There are 7 levels of Scorpio, and the lower level is like the spider. We of course have the scorpion, but then we get up to the phoenix, which I mentioned earlier, and the eagle. The eagle soars above all of the chaos and the trauma and the challenge, and sees it for what it is and allows the universe to handle it. So the vindictiveness isn't even a thing, because you don't have to be vindictive, because you know the universe will always handle it. So those are some Pluto and Scorpio lessons for you guys. But like Pluto square, it depends on when you were born. So right now, if you're like 83 to like 86, right now you're going through your Pluto square, because we're in the early degrees of Pluto and Aquarius. So older millennials, I feel you. I'm going through it too. So yeah.
Wait, okay, so I've heard about the Saturn return, Pluto square. So this must be the next. Okay, so what is the Pluto square? Because apparently we're all going to go through it at some point. So
yes, so you're going. So like I mentioned, the elder millennials are going through it right now. And so a square in astrology is a 90-degree angle, and this is a hard aspect. So this means that there's conflict, tension, and change. So when Pluto meets up with your natal Pluto, the transiting Pluto, the houses that Pluto are in for you, zodiac sign, are going to go through tension and change. And the best way to work through a Pluto square, whatever way of life it's happening for you, is to surrender, to allow it to happen and learn the lesson that you can from it, and use that as an evolution point, like the phoenix, and come back and be reborn. Yeah, if you're 83 to 86, 87, Pluto square right now. And it can also mean really great things as well, in terms of like your career can change for the better. Like you could get laid off, and then a month later, finally there's room now, and something better can come and bring that evolution. So it seemed really crappy at the time, but Pluto had plans for you. So you need to let go of that mess, and so that there would be space for something better to come. I also liken Pluto to like a garbage man. He like takes out the trash in the home that is like no longer needed, the baggage, like it's time to chuck it out. And if you're attached to that baggage, it can feel really painful. Or you're attached to that safety or that security, it can feel really challenging. But then it's like hindsight, you look at it and you're like, oh wow, I'm glad this. It's kind of like Saturn return. You're like, I'm glad that happened. Because like I when I went through my Saturn return, I was going through it, I was like, woe is me. Like, oh my God, this is rough. But now looking back, I'd be like, I literally wouldn't be where I'm at if those things didn't fall away, if that relationship didn't end, if I didn't move from this place, I would not be in a much better place now. So that's kind of like when you're in it, it can feel rough. But on the other side of that is greatness. So
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the beautiful thing about transformations. And when we, when things are taken away from us, we really do feel like, what did I do wrong what did I do to deserve this? I don't deserve this. I thought you wanted me to follow my heart. It's like you have that conversation with God. It's like, I did what you told me to do, you know? And then God's like, yes, but you can do better. I want you to do better. I want you to evolve past this. And yeah, the whole thing with Saturn returns is to like really deep down, what is it that you really want? Okay, because a lot of people, that's the mistake that, I mean, even I've made, I'm not, I speak like this, but it's from experience. It's not because I know.
oh, same.
It's to make you recognize, did you really do what you said you were going to do? And if you're not doing it, oh, girl, you're going to get a rude awakening.
Oh, and for people with Saturn and Aries, your Saturn return is up next. So this is like every 27 years. So you would be around 27-ish, 26, 27 right now. And then you have your second Saturn return. You'd probably be like mid 50s, late or early mid 50s.
Mm-hmm.
You're on the cusp.
Yeah. Oh no, so mine's in Pisces, so it's just ending.
Yeah, you're finishing.
Thank God.
Congrats.
I'm so done. I'm so done with it. I feel like it started at 27, and I thought it was gonna be this little 2-year thing. Yeah. Just going through the 2 years. No, it's 4 years.
No. And you had Neptune there. Neptune's been there for the past 16 years, but with this Saturn in Pisces transit, Neptune's been there for the whole time. So I'm sure Pisces seasons were ultra intense as well because you've got the sun activating it. We've gotten out of that. But this past Pisces season, we're literally at the end of Neptune and Pisces on top of everything else. And we have the North Node in Pisces right now, also initiating 18 months of eclipses in Pisces and Virgo, which I'm sure, I don't know if you want to hear that, but yeah.
Ooh, wait, get into it real quick. That I didn't realize 18 months of eclipses. Wait.
So the Pisces eclipses started this fall,
mm-hmm.
and the nodes of the moon actually, the eclipses follow the nodes of the moon. So you can kind of tell where the eclipses are currently happening by taking a look at the nodes. So we have the South Node at Virgo, and then we have the North Node in Pisces. And when we look at it on a collective level, the North Node can tell us the direction, the overall what the focus is for the collective. And it's really interesting how Pisces is there, and we literally are in a fascist cult right now in the United States, and Pisces can rule over religious delusion and or cult-like behavior. It also can rule over things like infectious diseases, hospitals. I'm not really jazzed about the South Node being in Virgo because it's like a lot of the health practices and the rationale that we kind of established in 2020 can go out the window and cause more of a proliferation. We have bird flu. That was a big part of this axis. Jupiter in Gemini as well has been squaring the nodes,
mm-hmm.
and that also has been a reason why international travel has been more challenging, and people have felt like they needed to stay local. Gemini is all about being local. Jupiter is about international travel. So that also has been causing some tension, but Jupiter is moving into Cancer in June. So we're going to have some relief with that. So I'm happy about that. And Jupiter loves to be in Cancer. Jupiter is exalted. So I think that I'm not saying like all the problems are over, but I think that more people are going to be traveling, and I think there may be, I hate to say it, but more conflict on a global level as well with it, because Jupiter is forming a square to Neptune and Saturn in Aries. So while we are going to feel less restriction financially and travel-wise, there may be more conflict brewing this summer.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because that's where
That's going to be interesting. We just have to be aware of like the conflicts that are happening and stuff. Okay. I mean, it's kind of given. This happened in 2020 during COVID too. This is not based off of astrology, but just from what I experienced and saw, like there was a lot of conflicts around that time. A lot of protests. So a lot of so it was like it was just super. It was interesting. It's just an interesting time. But that's good. We have a little grace period. That's that's how I like to call it, grace period. A little happy moment before everything goes crazy again. Um, okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really, really appreciate it. And of course, the audience, for the audience listening, Adama has also left you a freebie. The link's in the description below. Before we log off, do you have any last words you want to say?
Yeah, thank you so much for listening, everyone. And if you want to find out more about Black Moon Lilith, check out Black Moon Lilith Rising as I walk you through the houses, Black Moon Lilith through the signs in aspect to certain planets. And it's like a self-help book as well to teach you how to integrate and use the dark feminine as your superpower. So